Good afternoon. I'm going to be going over the comprehensive employee lifecycle plan for the operations flight in the 11th Civil Engineering Squadron Joint Base Anacostia Bolling in the United States Air Force. For their overview, we're going to go over the Human Capital Needs Assessment, Attraction, Recruitment and Selection, Total Rewards Program, the development of the talent, employee relations, retention, employee experience, separations, involuntary and voluntary, and implementation and monitoring. For the Human Capital Needs Assessment, I'm going to overview the operations flight. The Air Force core missions are to fly, fight, and win, including air supremacy and global reach. The Air Force demands peak performance from its personnel to ensure its mission success. This is reflected in its training, evaluation, and reward system. The Air Force has a core set of values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence all we do, that guides its members' actions to try and provide the best of the best the U.S. Armed Forces have to offer. The operations flight in the 11th Civil Engineering Squadron is what I'm going to analyze for this project, and we'll keep in mind the strategic goals of the Air Force as well. The ops flight is made up of 142 personnel with different career fields spanning from electricians, HVAC, heavy equipment operators, and water and fuels maintenance operations. The strategic goals for the ops flight specifically is provide excellent customer service to all base facility customers, maintain and repair a $3.7 billion infrastructure, and to respond to any deployment taskings that are driven by the Department of the Air Force. The workforce must be adequately trained to repair and maintain the facilities they are responsible for. They also must be trained, the military members, to deploy anytime, anywhere in the world. And please see this statement from Secretary of the Air Force. This is why we all serve, to be ready at any time, undertake the most stressful mission we may be given. Deterrence is the goal, but deterrence rests firmly on our readiness and ability to win. No one wants a great power conflict, and no one can predict when one might occur, but come it may, and we must be as ready as we can, now, today, tomorrow. The current workforce competencies are lacking due to inadequate training, funding, and manning. The Air Force realized that training is lacking in all squadrons throughout the organization for readiness. Job knowledge has been adequate, and the civilian force helps with that, but the readiness is what we need to get after for the pacing threat, which is China. This could include week-long temporary duty locations, training projects, and increased deployment cycles. All these factors will take away manning from base maintenance, leaving more strain on the civilian workforce. Manning is one of the prime limiting factors to the ops flight. With all the training and deployments, the only way to get after keeping the same maintenance operations on the base is to increase the civilian manning. Attractions. Since military members are congressionally capped and manpower study was already done at Joint Base Anacostia Bolling, attraction can be applied to get civilian forces to fill the allotted manpower positions they're currently not filling. This can be done by word of mouth to recently retired subject matter experts in their respective career fields. Recently retired or separated airmen, no matter if they got out after 4 years or 20, are essential to bring back as civilians. The Air Force has already provided funding to train these airmen when they were in active duty, so onboarding them into a civilian position would streamline that process. Air Force benefits. The Air Force offers job security, competitive wages, and full benefits to its civilian force. You will integrate with a blend of active duty, reserve forces, and contracted civilians to form a dynamic team in the squadron. If you want a sense of responsibility and ownership while protecting our nation's capital through the various infrastructure missions, then this is the job for you. Recruitment. The current pipeline for the civil engineering and listed career fields is they are often recruited and starting out in high school, and the enlisted force usually has limited to no college experience. What that means is they come in right after high school, they go to their technical training to learn their career field, and once they graduate their technical training, then they're pushed out to their first duty location to get on the job training. To be selected to get into the civil engineering career field, you must score adequately on the ASVAB in the mechanical category, and then, like I said, pass your technical training. For the officer corps, recruitment could be done in high school as well to attend the Air Force Academy, where you would study engineering, and when you graduate, you would be put into the civil engineering pipeline as your first duty station. Or you could go to a non-Air Force college and apply for officer training school once you've completed your engineering degree. Once you've done your officer training school, then you would be put into your first duty location. For our civilian force, you could have no experience at any Air Force installation, but you might have technical expertise in one of the designated career fields and be hired that way. Recently retired enlisted officers and enlisted members are also prime candidates to fill civilian manning positions, as I spoke to earlier. Recommendations for developing a more robust talent pipeline would be to establish adequate training plans for all employees to keep retention higher. The selection process would vary depending on personnel, but it would include certifications, degrees, physical fitness levels for military personnel, job knowledge, and experience. The total rewards program, I've identified 2A and 2B positions within the squadron. This would be the commander, who is an officer, a senior enlisted leader, who was a chief master sergeant, enlisted personnel. The B positions would be the operations flight commander, which would also be an officer at the major level, and an ops superintendent, which would be enlisted at the senior master sergeant level. The commander and senior enlisted are the top two decision makers for the squadron, and the ops commander and the ops superintendent are the top two decision makers for the operations flight. The full benefits package for all four would be their basic military pay, depending on what grade they are, pay grade they are, housing allowance based on dependence, location, and the rank, variable pay, which would be tax-free pay while at a deployed location, cost of living adjustments if you were to be stationed overseas, medical health insurance, dental vision coverage, life insurance, and access to the commissary and base exchange. The Air Force also offers paid time off. You earn 30 days of leave every year, and you also get federal holidays and family days off. Being in the Air Force as well, there are also leadership training programs, conferences, and tuition assistance to acquire relevant degrees to further promote yourself. The specific talent management needs that the operations flight is missing is their overall mission readiness to respond and sustain wartime operations. Our civilian force are subject matter experts at the home station training, but our military members need to be ready to fight anytime, anywhere. For the past 20 years, the Air Force has been deploying their forces in the same way to large established air bases in the Middle East. Today, the threat from great powers of the world is going to be in the Pacific. The answer to the future fight is agile combat employment. Agile combat employment is a scheme and maneuver to fly small teams into locations with just an airstrip somewhere in the Pacific and expect that team to work together and gain and turn fighter jets or bombers in a minimal amount of time with limited resources. To support the future fight, the operations flight must adjust their training focus and become skilled not just in their career field, but also have a general knowledge in their coworkers as well, being multi-capable. The structure of this talent development program will be expanding on our current readiness training that we receive once a month. The operations flight will be broken up to 4 groups according to their deployment phase they are assigned to. The phases are Alpha through Delta. Readiness training will now be on the first and third Wednesdays of every month and be scheduled so that each phase accomplishes a different task to optimize the instructor to student ratio, minimize any space limiting factors. The components of the readiness training will be career field specific that could happen while at one of the austere locations. The specific components are on the charts as follows. The P signifies the primary training career field. The X signifies the supporting career fields that must be adequately trained to that wartime task. The chart below shows the timeline of when each flight will be conducting that wartime task training. Once all the training is done, there will be annual exercises or a deployment scenario. There are direct pass or fail grades for these annual exercises, and this would determine the efficiency of the operations flight members' performance. Employee relations. A strategy that can be implemented for employee satisfaction is a well-being initiative of surveys to calculate employee climate and then create programs that develop the areas that we need to work within the organization. The purpose of the well-being initiative is to elevate the employee experience for the operations flight by fostering a holistic approach to well-being, strengthening social connections, and increasing resilience. This would include 3 pillars to increase employee experience: physical wellness, mental and emotional wellness, and social connection and community. The flight will regularly track participation and employee feedback to measure progress and tailor the program offerings accordingly. The work tempo is high at this base, and implementing the well-being initiative can boost morale and strengthen the Air Force's greatest asset, which is its airmen. Career progression and advancement for military personnel is already in place. For enlisted, there's a weighted airman promotion system where you are evaluated annually and can test on Air Force heritage questions, career field specific questions. These scores will be combined with your military record and decorations earned to provide a total score. This total score will be compared to other members within your career field to determine who is ready to promote. For civilian positions, they are also evaluated annually by their supervisors. If all criteria is met, as well as time in the position, they are allotted steps in their pay grade to provide a compensation increase annually. Separations. Offboarding for voluntary separators and involuntary members is close to the same. These members will be provided options like transition assistance, skill bridge opportunities for internship, proper medical evaluation, and veterans assistance resources. Involuntary members are provided these resources as well, but could have additional medical requirements if the member is getting removed due to medical complications, or there are legal requirements if the member is getting discharged due to disciplinary actions. The knowledge transfer would be simple in these scenarios because once the member is identified as separating, another member from a different base would be slotted to fill their position. The gaining member would have the same skill level as the member leaving, and they would require installation familiarization at Anacostia Bowling. This would be done within the squadron and the flight, this section that they are going to. Implementation and monitoring of the employee lifecycle plan will be done through our talent development strategy. Ensuring all members complete their training throughout the 4 phases. This will ensure members are comfortable in the roles and responsibilities as well as being ready to deploy anytime with confidence. Additionally, the flight will regularly track participation and employee feedback within the well-being initiative to measure progress and tailor those program offerings accordingly. The work tempo is high at the base. Providing these 2 initiatives will help boost morale. The KPIs would be the surveys with the well-being initiative and the training progress through exercises on the talent development plan.